All right. Welcome back to another episode of Pizza Talks. This is our second episode, and today we're going to be talking about pseudoscience, science, and conspiracy theories. My name is Sophia.
And I'm Kostas.
But first, we want to start off by talking a little bit about Deree news. So I wanted to give a shout out to the United Nations Sustainable Development Group Symposium, exploring DiverCity of Athens, and you can find their link and all their information in the description box below.
The event will occur online November 11th to 13th. And now, we also have the student-led event compromised by Deree students who are part of the Millennium Fellowship. You can check the link down below, happening this week as well.
And they focus on 4 out of the 17 goals. So they focus on reduced inequalities, gender equality, sustainable cities and communities, and last but definitely not least, sustainable consumption and production, health and wellness.
Now, we have the Health and Wellness Coexist. You can check the link down below. An all-inclusive package guiding Deree students on how to cope and coexist with the new situations of COVID-19. I think you will find it very useful with what's happening right now with the lockdown.
Stay inside, wear your mask, and don't be disrespectful.
Exactly. Also, you can find more resources on exercise during COVID-19, as well as health myths and food recipes in the following link in the description.
Perfect.
Oh, and
we
also
have a ACG Alumni Webinar on Friday, November 13th at 5:30 p.m. for a webinar on mindfulness, a scientific mental health approach to meditation. So you can reach relaxation, ease stress, and understanding mindfulness in the registration link below.
Perfect. So welcome to the second episode of Pizza Talks, and roll the intro.
Should we eat the pizza?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
So, conspiracy theories, you say?
We actually wanted to talk about conspiracy theories, but we ended up realizing that everything that we build up to isn't exactly only conspiracy theories, right? It's also part of actual science, but also pseudoscience.
Yeah.
So everything that you're going to hear about today is all of these different things.
It is, and it's kind of interesting because a conspiracy theory in itself is just an explanation for an event or situation that involves a conspiracy to convert or create a social perception based on sinister or from sinister or powerful groups.
Yeah, it's basically the belief of like another definition that we found. I believe that some covert but influential organization is responsible for an unexplained event. So conspiracies are about unexplained events. Unexplained, you can say unexplained socially or from science or anything.
And you can say almost anything is unexplained. We also looked up the definition of a theory, which is a contemplative or rational type of abstract or generalizing thinking about a phenomenon. And we wanted to note that gravity, as well as a lot of other things, like Einstein's theory of relativity, which we talk about later, are just theories. They have scientific basis, but they are, again, just a theory. So,
yes, at the end of the day, everything is a theory, and whatever you see in the world basically exists through your own perspective. And on that, going into that kind of conversation, let's talk about color.
Yes.
What is color? And that's why we said we're going to talk more about science, pseudoscience, these kind of things, and less about actual conspiracy theories, because we ended up driving towards that kind of conversation. There's this idea, and it's true, that my red, I don't know what I see as red is what Sophia sees as red.
Exactly. And we are only able to see colors on a spectrum that our eyes can see. So like, this is obvious. All people in the medical, whatever, most people know this. You can only see the colors on a spectrum, but dogs, birds, bees, butterflies, they can all see different types of colors. So essentially there are opportunities in human biology for somebody to, like you were saying, have a different perception of red more different understanding of specific colors than everybody else. And we never really know what the color we perceive is to someone else.
I mean, we know the definition of color. Color is what the reaction we see of an object to light, to
Through our retina
light in our retina.
Yes.
But we don't know that what I see as like gray, which is the clouds back there, if you can see that. You can see it. Yes, you can see it back there. What I see as gray there is the same gray that Sophia sees.
Sure.
And what you said, that different kinds of animals understand different kinds of colors and see different kinds of things, and can also hear different kinds of frequencies.
Yes.
And that's how we went into talking about frequencies. And what did you say about frequencies? We started talking about different dimensions, things like that.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, different frequencies are dimensions of sound that we can't access
Exactly.
with our ears.
A lot of people are very skeptical when you start talking about different dimensions or different frequencies. But that's not even a theory. That is the way that our text messages work. Like our texts don't work without a frequency. Bluetooth, your headphones don't work without a frequency. So frequencies are something that everybody acknowledges, but we haven't necessarily as a society acknowledged the fact that there could be different dimensions of frequencies within the same physical plane. And so that's what we were kind of talking about earlier when we were talking about the different dimensions along with frequencies of sound.
Yeah, so it's the idea that like you might have the idea that like, okay, so this is the world we live in.
True.
And it's like there are things that we can't see and we cannot see. And that's why we're going into pseudoscience and fake facts and myths, which was the idea that, okay, you have different frequencies. What if you have other beings in this world that live in these different kind of dimensions, but that exist in the same world that we live in? And it's also the idea that people see ghosts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can never prove if a ghost exists or doesn't exist because we cannot see it from our perspective. A ghost.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
I haven't seen a ghost personally. And I don't think I've ever had anything except in maybe a dream, but I don't think I've ever dreamt of a ghost. So I can't exactly talk about something like that. But like, if we talk about ghosts that exist in a dimension that's kind of different but in the same reality as ours, then I'm not even sure if you would be capable of seeing them in any way.
They say that little kids, because they're so fresh in society or our dimension, our world, our physical plane, that they are more in tuned to different frequencies. And this is proven in science because young children can hear frequencies that are much higher pitched, that adults who are more mature, their body's more mature, they can't necessarily hear. And you can look them up, you can play them, they're online. We can't necessarily hear them, we're all grown adults, but children can. So if you are talking about like seeing ghosts or seeing different entities upon different dimensions of the physical plane, children are more likely to be able to see a different entity because they're more in tune to the different frequencies. But as we get older, we can't hear those frequencies, see those frequencies, or even have the we don't have the mental acknowledgement in a way. Do you know about the word
We
song?
don't have the capability to do it, the physical capability to do it.
Some people do.
Maybe. I guess the average human doesn't have the physical capabilities to do that. Like your ears cannot catch these frequencies.
Sure.
Or your eyes cannot see this kind of things. Like some animals can see better in the dark, but still you need light to see.
Have you ever heard of the word sonder?
What word?
Sonder.
I have no idea what sonder is.
Sonder. Okay. So basically sonder is a word that it's a feeling when you're walking down the street and you realize that everybody is within their own universe, within their own dimension. And by that, we don't necessarily mean like they're crazy, they're thinking of whatever. And like everybody has their own life, they're going through their own things. It's like when you look out into a big city at night and you see only half of the building illuminated with the windows. And you can think about every person's individual life. And even with that, because nobody can deny that, some people can deny different dimensions, different frequencies that, I mean, there's science to back it up, but that you can't deny. Within each person, within our own perception, our own reality, we have our own dimension. Your dimension, your reality of this right now is completely different than mine. We're sitting at different sides of the table. We have different types of lighting.
We have a different history that has led us up to what we are right now.
And different contexts.
Yes,
Yeah.
we see things in different contexts.
True.
You can never see something the same way someone else sees. And going back to color, the word orange, what does it mean for you? What is an orange? In English, orange is both a color and a fruit,
True.
right?
True.
Okay, so what if in another language, the word orange is different things?
It's interesting to think about I don't know, cut this out if we're not allowed to talk about this.
Yeah.
What do blind people dream of? They dream in a podcast. We were talking about this earlier. They're not going to necessarily see a color. Of course, when we close our eyes and we have light, we can see a shade or we have a feeling of warmth or whatnot. But it would be more of like a very interesting podcast. Like you hear footsteps coming in the snow, so they know that it's snow. They know that it's cold. I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting to understand what somebody would dream without being able to see something.
Yes. I'm sure if we look it up, we'll find many different things. And I'm sure that many different people with different stages of blindness will see different things.
Of course, somebody that was born blind is not going to be able to understand or even see, comprehend color in the same sense that somebody who became blind did.
I think connecting them to words and emotions works in a different way than connecting them to
and your different
something you
senses,
see.
like a touch or a sound or a taste.
So do you dream blind is the idea? Or do you have dreams?
Or when we were talking about earlier, if I were to tell you to think of like an apple, do you see a physical apple? Do you see something in your head? Is it green? Is it red?
Or do you feel
shiny?
it? You said that you feel, right?
Okay, I don't know. This is like, it's complicated to like how to describe like how you'd actually understand it in your mind, but I don't necessarily see an image. Like I close my eyes and think of an apple. I don't see an apple. I just know it's an apple. I know that it's green. I can see how round it is. I know that it has little bumps on the bottom. It has a little brown stem. Maybe it has some bruises. Who knows? It might have fallen. But I don't see it. I just know it. I can like perceive. I feel my perception of it in the past.
Exactly.
But some people can actually see it.
You get that image back from the past.
Yeah.
So that's basically connected to your experiences and how you think about things. Like an apple for you, and an apple for some specific person might be really important because it was an important part of their life for some reason. Like, let me make an imaginary example. What if a person had, like, his dad was literally growing apples. They had a field full
like
of
an
trees with
orchard.
apple.
Yeah.
And this connects them to their family.
You know, every year in the States for Thanksgiving, my family we used to have a couple different traditions. And one of them was apple picking. Everybody, I don't know if this happens everywhere in the States, but it's very common in the East Coast, in most of the states, for you to go apple picking with your family. And so you do tie apples, apple pie, anything you make with apples. My grandma always makes applesauce. So every time I see applesauce, I think of my grandma. So exactly like you're saying, an apple has more parental or family context to me than it might to you.
Like for me right now, and it's kind of funny if you think about it, if you tell me think of apple, and instead of thinking of an apple, something else is gonna come to my mind.
Oh, you're gonna think of, yes, true, the technology.
If you tell me think of Apple,
Very true.
I'm gonna think of the company Apple. An apple with apple is a completely different thing.
True. And okay, I know we did not talk about this earlier, but there is a conspiracy that the logo of Apple, which is the little, obviously apple with the bite out of it, is supposed to represent like Adam and Eve in a way, like they bite the apple,
Yes.
and this is like, okay, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
You can continue expanding on that.
It's more like, I haven't done a ton of research on it, so I don't necessarily know, and I'm not very religious, so I don't have this like religious background to make good educated guesses, but I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to represent all the negative and like evil that was brought into society. And you can think about how much our world has and our interactions have changed because of Apple. Not an Apple, but Apple.
Apple the company.
Yeah.
Not only Apple the company, many different kinds of things.
Technology.
And that's how you go into different, like we started in different conspiracies that different kind of companies organize different kinds of events, or they might be behind many big events that have happened and we might not know about it. And that's how we ended up talking today, because we thought about all those different things and those different questions. And the other interesting thing, going back to frequencies and dimensions, we went into that kind of talk through time travel.
Yes. Do I have it? I don't. But okay, so there is a conspiracy theory, right?
Yes.
That Walt Disney froze himself through cryogenics. Because it's very well known that one of his biggest dreams is to see the happiest place on earth and to and to experience what Disney in modern times would be like. So people believe that he froze his body. But the thing about the internet is that you cannot get rid of information. You just can't, right? You just can't. The only way that you can, in a sense, is by burying information. So if you want to find any information on Walt Disney Frozen, what are you going to find?
Frozen, the movie.
And if you want to find any information on Walt Disney on Ice,
you're thinking about the event.
Exactly. So you're not going to find you're going to find YouTube videos. That's how we find out about it. But you're going to have to do a little bit more research to see.
These are not connected.
No, sorry.
It's awkward. We had a minor issue with our recorder. So we're recording on my microphone directly to my laptop. Can you see that? Directly to the laptop. These are just for show. So we're just speaking into the mics.
But back to Walt Disney.
Yes.
And cryogenics. So I was saying, and disagree with me, or please agree with me in the comments, that in a way, cryogenics, freezing yourself and having the expectation that you can be brought back to life in future generations, future time, is essentially traveling through time. But you were disagreeing with me.
It's traveling through time.
But it's not time travel.
Time travel.
So you know a lot more about time travel than I do. So can you explain it?
Yes. So basically, time travel can have your paper. One more paper again. So you know what time travel is supposedly. Okay. You have time, which is linear.
Can you grab a pen?
Can I have a pen? Can I have a pen? Can we? Pineapple pen. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So you have time, which is a linear thing, right here. Time. Do you see? Do you see? This is time.
By the way, the formula of slope is y equals mx plus b, and you should know that. Sorry.
You're copying Interstellar.
This is time. This is basically what Interstellar gives you. This is time. Although what Interstellar didn't do is that it didn't give you the 3D dimension of space. Because you have time which is linear, but space is 3D dimensional. So you can't exactly explain this on the paper. But the idea is that if you create a puncturing time with gravity, because gravity is below everything, then you might be able to travel in space through a wormhole. That's what happened in Interstellar.
What happens is you have to have, and you can think of when I don't know if you guys do this in like PE, physical education, when you're young. Sorry, I'll wear my mask. But we always did this thing where we'd have this large sheet, and we would put like basketballs or marbles in the middle, and everyone's holding the ends, and as the marble goes around, the pole is changed, which is the idea of gravity and whatnot, right? So with your theory, this of time, essentially it gets pulled down.
You're pulling gravity so much that you're bending time and space itself.
To become the same point, right?
Yes.
So what I was explaining about cryogenics is that you're not necessarily instantaneously traveling through time, but you are traveling through generations, which is time.
What you're doing is that basically, so the wormholes is an idea that you might be able to travel to the past through a wormhole. What you're doing with cryogenics
is going only to the future.
Is you're connecting, not time traveling through gravity and gravitational
Sure.
pull, you're connecting time travel to light speed. And that light moves faster.
With cryogenics here?
Yes. So someone who moves with the speed of light is going to arrive at the destination younger than the people that he left. And he's not going to realize it.
True. Okay.
So
yes.
with cryogenics, you're connecting time travel with traveling to the speed of light. So you're arriving at your destination, that is the future, younger than the people that you left.
Okay, there's this really cool thing that I heard on TikTok. So who knows if it's accurate, okay? I'm not saying it is. But there's the butterfly effect, right?
Mhm.
And which basically says that everything that's bound to happen will happen, right? So if you go back in time and you kill your grandpa, everyone's heard this, but I'm just putting it out there. If you go back in time and you kill your grandpa, then your grandpa never existed, and neither did you. So you never killed your grandpa. So your grandpa exists. So you exist.
Yes.
So you cannot go back in time and change the events.
That's two different things. First of all, you're creating a paradox.
Okay.
And second of all, you're creating a butterfly effect because you killing your grandpa is a paradox. But you going in the past is what you mentioned before when we were talking about a butterfly effect.
True.
Because if you end up in the past, your presence in the past will create an event that will separate different kinds of events and create a completely different reality.
Like Back to the Future,
Exactly.
if you're a fan.
So the idea is that if time travel existed, we would never know because our present will completely change. So the only way to correct this and the only way to figure out a way
Is to be on a completely different dimension.
Yes. So what you're doing when you're traveling in the past, the moment you leave this dimension and you travel to the past, you're creating a separate timeline, a separate dimension. Because that's the only way with time travel that you wouldn't be able to create either a paradox
Okay.
or a completely different reality.
I want to note that when we're talking about dimensions, we're not necessarily talking about, like, it's not a building with different rooms, as in
Yes.
each dimension. It's one physical plane with different frequencies upon it,
Exactly.
right? So nothing about the physical world changes. It's just entities and frequencies upon it that we are not capable to hear, see, taste, feel, yada, yada, yada.
And also, very important note, and to wrap it up with that note,
Oh, that was fast.
yes, we don't have too much more time,
Okay.
sadly. Everything we have been talking about are personal opinions.
True.
Many things might be completely wrong.
Mhm.
That's why we said this is not science.
No.
This is part of conspiracy theories mixed with science and pseudoscience. This is just us discussing things.
Yeah, and I want to note, like we said in the last episode, if you want to be
You can grab it. This is for show.
okay. If you want to be on the podcast or you have any ideas for what you'd like to hear about, what if
We
you
can
just
look up.
want to hear about our opinion on certain topics? You think we're smart or you think we're stupid? Who cares? Please comment down below or hit us up
Yes.
on Instagram or YouTube at
DC. Okay.
Videography.
So our email is dc.videographyclub@acg.edu.
And the YouTube is Videography Club
Videography
ACG.
Club ACG. And our Instagram is Videography Club. It's at Videography Club ACG.
Yeah.
And also, the next podcast is going to be completely online because Greece is going on lockdown. So
Sure.
anyone from anywhere around the world can be part of the podcast.
Yes. So even if you're, home quarantining, hit us up if you have something to say. We want to hear what you have to say.
Exactly. So anyone, anywhere around the world can be part of the podcast.
Okay.
So hit us up. We need people here. It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna talk about anything. We can talk about movies. We can talk about science. We can talk about personal stories. Anything you want.
Very true.
And with that,
This has been Sophia.
Parks
I
and
don't wanna
Kostas
say that.
Karathanasis.
And thank you for watching the second episode of Pizza Talks with Real Pizza.
Yes, we had real pizza this time around. And I think this is a wrap.
Yes.